Hey everybody, good afternoon. My name is Dustin Strong and this is Strong on Health and our Ask Me Anything Hour. We've got some really interesting questions today, so I'm excited to jump into them. This is when you can ask us any questions about nutrition, wellness, health in general, and we're going to give you our information that we have come to learn and share it with you. We get a lot of people asking the same questions, so we want to be able to share our answers with more than just one person. So if you hear something in here that is a question that you've had and there are other people you've had to talk to and you guys are discussing these, please share this with them so we can also be able to share what we've learned with them as well. So I'm going to jump in first with a success story, actually. I have a lot of people talking about blood pressure and heart health, and we're of course concerned about this as well. And blood pressure is something that you want to keep an eye on as much as you can. But there's so much power in whole foods, and I'm going to start with this because we're going to go back to it many times as we're talking over this. But I have a friend and a client who is in their 70s and has been struggling with blood pressure, and they are medicated, and they are still having a hard time keeping that blood pressure in the range that they would feel comfortable with. And after examining his diet, we noticed that there really wasn't a lot of these essential nutrients, potassium and magnesium. So a very cheap and simple solution that we discussed and we thought we would try out was for him to incorporate more whole food beans in his diet. So he did 2 cups of beans a day. Now after the first week, now this is just a story, and I'm not saying it's 100% exactly causative, but correlative to be sure, his blood pressure, systolic and diastolic, went down over 5 points. And he's continued to do this and continued to have some increased benefits from bringing just a whole food into his life. Now, can we say definitively it's exactly that caused it? No. But his blood pressure hadn't been changing, and now it is getting under control. So it could be a measure of a few different things that he's doing differently. But the point is there are things that you can do to take control of your health. And this is really something before I go any further, I just want to say this is not medical advice. This is not intended to be professional advice or any type of suggestion, anything other than just human advice. And a way to help you understand that it's so important that you have a level of knowledge of how your body works, because if you are not, you're going to be at the mercy of people who know just a little bit more than you, and you're not going to question it, and this is where we get in some trouble. This morning, I spoke with a 68-year-old woman who asked me a question about heart health and saying that, hey, I want to ask you something because I got a call from my doctor's office and they want me to take this drug for my heart. And she hadn't been in over 6 months. And she said, well, I don't understand why they're calling me now and they're just telling me I need to go out and fill this prescription. And that's a great question. And so the takeaway is you have to ask questions. You cannot just accept because somebody has some measure of authority that you should blindly follow what they're saying. This is a great question. How come they're waiting 6 months since I've seen them and now they're having somebody else from the office tell me to take a medication? You should know more about what that medication is and what it does, and you should definitely have a conversation with that doctor about why this has happened. So do not be afraid to speak with your healthcare provider. They are there for you, they are there to help you, and they are not the boss of you. And if they are not helping you, then you need to find somebody who is going to help you and communicate with you and work with you. Again, so this is not medical advice, this is not professional advice, this is just human to human. Unless somebody has earned your respect and trust as a person, then you should be careful to just throw all of your health into their hands. Okay, so that being said, we're going to go on. So we have products that people send to us about asking the value of it. And I think I showed a picture of this last time, and it's Super Greens, and now I do have a clear visual on exactly what's in it. And reading this down, there are great things in it. That of course there's spinach and broccoli and kale, and there is fiber, and there's a whole host of nutrients in here. And we will tag who it is. I can't see who it is. It's Activated U. From what I can see on the ingredients, everything in here looks like it's a pretty good whole food and multiple levels of food, different kinds of sources. So that's great. The only thing I cannot speak of is that I don't know personally the resources that these are coming from. I don't know where it's being sourced from. Whenever I am going to tell somebody from my own personal experience, I want to make sure that I have tried something. And most of the nutrients that I am ever going to tell somebody that I'm going to be taking, it's because I've gone and I have personally checked out where they're coming from, the quality, the value, everything. This really comes to play in a big way because we're getting a lot of questions about different products, and oftentimes when you get these commercial products, you're having people that are trying to find a way around the system and a way around and above nature or outside of nature, and that doesn't seem to work very well. So our other goal here is to help us kind of give us a rule of thumb and quick and easy ways to actually understand what is truth and what is just marketing. I have one on here that someone's asked me to debunk a myth. And we have a lot of these health myths, and one of them debunked is a lot of people say that eating healthy is expensive. And again, that goes back to what we were just talking about with the black beans, with that individual eating a couple of cups of that a week. The amount of nutrients you're getting in that are awesome. There is so much potassium, magnesium, and fiber, and they are not expensive. So there are ways to make sure that you are eating very healthy food and it's not breaking the bank. So there are a lot of whole food solutions out there that are not expensive, and people will cite specific things and say, oh, it's so expensive if I'm getting this organic or that organic and it's starting to break the bank. That's not true. There are ways for you to get healthy foods without breaking the bank. And in fact, it's so much more expensive to be spending your money on a lot of commercially raised things that you're gonna have to, actually not getting any value from, and wind up having to take other things to offset the negative of what you're eating in those. So, and I will put the links below. We've talked about this before, something called the Dirty Dozen. When people are talking about organic foods, the Dirty Dozen are the ones that you probably do want to avoid if they're not organic, and you do want to choose them organic. And then there's things called the Clean 15 that you don't necessarily have to get organic, and so that can actually make a big difference in how much you're spending on your produce. And again, we'll put a link about that below. All right. That being said, I did get a long message here for someone saying that they tell so many people about us, but what can I advise people who just won't or can't come to you for help? What products at Sprouts can I advise them to take so it can actually help them? I want everyone to feel their best like you. So this is a great question, but the answer is a little more complicated than you just need to go to Sprouts and get some foods. If you want an easy answer, eat things as they have occurred in nature. Eat whole foods. The more you eat foods that they become further and further away from nature, the more you are putting in the potential that they're going to be doing something that your body is not going to like. There's going to be something missing from them or something added to them that is not going to be how something would occur in nature. But let me give you this advice for those of you who are trying to get your friends healthy. This is very important, and it has taken me a very long time to learn this. And that is, you cannot want it more than they do. If they don't want it enough, if they're not willing to invest in their health, you cannot force them to do so. And you have to love them and respect them where they're at. If they constantly complain to you about their health and you're constantly trying to bring them a solution, but they don't want to hear that solution, they're not ready for it. And they are not going to put their own commitment to it. Too many times I've gone way beyond the middle point and trying to help people become healthy, and then they don't value what I'm giving it to them because I'm giving it away to them, and they don't see the value in it because it's just too easy and too simple, or it's just not, it just doesn't make sense because they haven't invested in it. People have to be invested in their health to be able to take control of their health. If they aren't invested in it and they're constantly putting their health in somebody else's hands, then they're going to be sadly disappointed because you have to take control of your own health and you have to be ready to be able to do that. A very funny meme somebody just sent me today, thank you, Dr. Valerie, and it's actually somebody behind a door, and Jesus is knocking on the door saying, hey, do you mind stop telling your doctor that my health is in your hands? Could you actually go out and maybe get some tests done and actually check in on what you're eating instead of just telling him that I'm going to take care of it because I kind of gave you a little control over that? This is true. We have to accept some responsibility for our health. We can't entirely put the whole thing in somebody else's hands, not even Jesus' hands, because we are making choices and God has given us free will to make those choices, so we have to make good choices, and if you want to make good choices, we're going to try our best to help you find those. Okay, so I know I'm all over the place today, but it's an interesting day here today. What is the difference between sugars and carbs when looking at a nutrition label? And actually they are going to be in the future making a special delineation for added sugars. So that's something that you should be looking for in the future, but you do want to read the label for whether or not there are sugars. Now I know there are over 60 different names for sugars. If there's something on the label that you do not know what it is or what it means, you definitely want to look that up before putting it in your body instead of just going off of what your friend said it tastes good. Our complex carbs combined into total carbs of carbs as well. So what you're asking me about is total carbs. And if you are somebody who's concerned about eating like a keto diet, this is going to be important for you because you do want to be paying attention to your total carb count and the net carb count, and that would mean you're going to be subtracting the grams of fiber from the total grams of carbs to be able to keep your net carb in a certain range. Sometimes the sugar will be low and the carbs will be super high. Is it true that for every gram of fiber it takes away a gram of sugar? So for every gram of fiber away from a gram of carbs for net carbs, but it doesn't take away any sugar. The sugar's still going to be in there. It's how your body's going to be responding to the sugar depending on how much fiber is going to be in there for sure. Hope that answered your question, and if it didn't, I'll try to clarify a little more. So a lot of questions about keto. Somebody asking about keto desserts, are they a good option? Low to no sugar plus all around better ingredients. There is a bakery apparently that has an entire keto section. So this is where we got to be careful with people trying to find their way around nature. Keto is something that people are looking into because it is reducing the overall excess carbohydrates. When you have too many carbohydrates, your body has to deal with them. And if you're trying to get your carbs low so that your body can get to a state where it's burning more fat than sugar for fuel, that is going to be something that I can understand why you're going to want to do that. But my major concern is that you still continue to eat real whole foods and still continue to get all your micronutrients. So all these people are trying to find ways to be able to still eat like they're eating sweets and sugars, but not eating them. And I'm seeing too many cases of people having bad reactions to these things, too many people not feeling well after eating them. They're putting too much of these fake sugars. And case in point, thank goodness somebody actually sent in a product that they wanted me to review, and it's called Lanuba Marshmallows. And so it says right under here, low carbs, low calorie, no added sugar. So this is where it gets a little sticky because I don't know how on earth they can say that actually on the label, except for the fact that when you read it, these are sugar alcohols. So they'll say, oh, there's no added sugar, but they're adding sugar alcohol. So it's semantics at that point. And honestly, guys, when I'm looking at this, just look it up because maltitol syrup is a sugar alcohol, but what's worse than that is it's a hydrogenated starch. So what does hydrogenated mean? It means that they are adding hydrogen atoms to it. We all know that hydrogenated oils are definitely not happening in nature and not something that we should be putting into our bodies. So again, the rule is if it's something happening outside of nature, if it's something they're adding hydrogen atoms to be able to create a different complete chemical compound, it's probably not something that your body's going to be able to digest very easily. And this is why you're seeing a lot of people having digestive problems with these. And there is something else in here that is a disaccharide, sugar alcohol. So they're getting away with saying that there's no sugar in here because they're putting a bunch of sugar alcohols in. But the hydrogenated thing alone, that's to me saying, I'm not going to put that into my body. Okay, and finally, we have a question about a book called How Not to Die. Dr. Michael Greger is a very interesting physician and a medical doctor who has done so much work for a company, actually a website called nutritionfacts.org. And so much great information has been put through him, but you have to still take the information he's giving and still think about it. You can't just accept it all as fact. You have to use it as a point to start your conversation to understand it. I'm not going to go into the complete details of research at this point. I think I will in another talk when we have a little more time. But the answer is yes, it is a book that is worth reading for these reasons. Number one, it again puts you in a position where you start to ask the questions and take more control over your health and understand that there is more that you can do. But should I accept this entire thing as gospel? Probably not. It is part of the foundation of the education for a holistic nutrition certification, so it is something I am very familiar with. But again, even though a lot of information is really great, we still have to be able to make sure it makes sense and it is appropriate to all people. So, great book, worth reading, but don't take every word as gospel. Okay, if there are no other questions today, we are going to be back on Thursday, Halloween. Remember, if you're looking for substitutes for candy to hand out to kids that are going to be lower in sugar, we got the Rip Van Waffle as our suggestion this year. There are other ones, there's great ones out there. Fruit is always a good suggestion, but there are also things that can actually be kind of fun and, you know, outside of that for kids to eat that aren't going to kill them. necessarily as quickly as other things. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. If there's any other questions, keep them coming, and we'll try to be a little more clear and lucid in our future of these Ask Me Anything hours. Have a great day, guys.